Hey, I'm Sophia. Before we start, go grab a snack and get comfortable for a bit. These stories take their time, and they are told the way I'd tell a friend late at night. I really hope you enjoy them. This story has one update on it and my own opinion at the end. Comment and tell me if you agree. Let's begin. I caught my fiancé cheating. I moved on and found true happiness that they can't ignore, which is a very poetic way of saying I walked into my own apartment holding a bottle of cheap Prosecco and a bag of takeout, and found Lena half-dressed on our couch with a man I'd never seen before. Her shirt was on the floor, his belt was undone, and the first stupid thought that went through my head was, wow, I just mopped in here. I froze in the doorway. The takeout bag slipped from my hand, containers thudding against each other, and all three of us jerked like someone had fired a gun. The smell of soy sauce and sweet chili hit me at the same time as the scene in front of me. Lena scrambled to sit up, shoving the guy away, hair a mess, lipstick smeared. He grabbed for his shirt, muttering, shit, under his breath. She said, voice too high. You're home early. You're on the couch. I heard myself reply, weirdly calm, like I was narrating someone else's documentary. My heart was sprinting. My hands had gone numb. With company. It was a Wednesday night. I wasn't supposed to be home early. I was meant to be at a client event that ran late, but the presenter had canceled and we all got to leave an hour earlier. I'd even texted Lena, good news, home by 8. Want dumplings? She hadn't replied, which I'd chalked up to her being at the gym. We'd been together for 4 years. We'd been engaged for 8 months. We just put down a deposit on a venue 2 weeks before. My Pinterest board was full of florals and playlists and cake inspo. Our fridge door had a magnet that said, Future Mrs. and Mrs., which I'd bought as a cheesy joke after we got engaged. Her mother still called me her friend, but Lena and I had rings on our fingers and plans in a Google Doc called Our Life. And then there I was, staring at my fiancé with some guy's hand still on her knee. Who are you? I asked him, still in that eerie, detached tone. He swallowed. I'm Dylan. From Lena's work. From Lena's work, I repeated, nodding. Cool. I turned to her. You brought a coworker home. To our apartment. To our couch. Let me explain, she said, standing up and grabbing for her shirt. Just Dylan, can you go? He bolted past me, the smell of his cologne hanging in the air like an accusation. The door closed behind him with a final little click, and suddenly the apartment was very quiet. I could hear the wall clock ticking, the hum of the fridge, and my own breathing. Too fast. Lena reached for me. Please, just listen. I stepped back. Don't touch me, I said. It came out sharper than I expected. My voice shook on me. She flinched. It wasn't. This is not what it looks like. I laughed. Not hysterical, just a short, ugly sound. Unless it looks like you cheating on me with your coworker in the apartment we pay for together, then I think it's exactly what it looks like. She ran a hand through her hair, eyes wild. We haven't done anything yet, okay? We were just talking and one thing led to another, but we didn't. Lena, I interrupted, do you honestly think the line is whether his penis physically entered you? Because it feels like we crossed a line 3 buttons ago. Her mouth opened and closed. She looked young suddenly, like the scared 23-year-old I'd first met at uni, not the woman who'd knelt in our kitchen 8 months ago with shaking hands and a ring box. I put the bottle of Prosecco down on the shoe cabinet with exaggerated care. My hands were still trembling. I'm going to ask you one question, I said. And I need you to answer it like I'm not an idiot. How long? She stared at me. I watched the calculations flicker across her face. The instinct to lie, the fear of being caught in the lie, the memory that I'd seen them together now with my own eyes. 3 months, she whispered. 3 months. 90 or so days. A whole season. I pictured all the times she'd come home late because the team went for drinks, the nights she'd been too tired to talk about wedding stuff, the way she'd started avoiding long conversations about our future by acting like it stressed her out. My chest felt too tight. Okay, I said, though nothing was okay. Then I'm going to pack a bag. Please, she said, panic flaring. Don't be dramatic. We can work through this. We're engaged. We're us. Apparently we're also you and Dylan from work, I said. So maybe us doesn't mean what I thought it did. I walked past her to the bedroom. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else. On the dresser, the small jewelry dish still held the 2 silver bands we used to swap between fingers when we got fidgety. I took mine off and set it down next to the others. The little clink it made was unreasonably loud. Don't do that, she said from the doorway, voice breaking.
Please, Eminencia.
I made a mistake. I freaked out. The wedding, my mom's comments, work being insane. So, you responded to stress by seeing another person behind my back? I zipped my overnight bag with more force than necessary. I mean, mindfulness apps exist, Lena. Therapy exists. Cheating is not the only coping strategy. She started crying. I love you. I've been so scared. What if we get married and I wake up one day and realize I missed out on something? What if? You already did, I said quietly. You just made sure of it. I left that night. I went to Mia's place, where I sat on her couch in an oversized hoodie, staring at the wall while she made tea and silently slid a box of tissues toward me. I expected myself to sob, to wail, to dramatically throw myself on the floor. Instead, I cried in these weird, quiet spurts, like my body's Wi-Fi kept cutting out. The next morning, I called the venue and canceled the booking. Are you sure? The woman on the phone asked, in that artificially gentle customer service voice. Very, I said. Then I called my parents. My mother, who had been lukewarm about my engagement since day one, said, I told you not to rush. My dad asked if I wanted to come stay with them. I said no. Lena texted me constantly for the first week. Long paragraphs alternating between apologies, excuses, and declarations of love. It didn't mean anything. I was drunk. I don't want to lose you. I'll go to therapy. Can we try again? I typed and deleted 100 replies. The only one I actually sent was, You already lost me. I just hadn't found myself yet. It sounds dramatic now, like a line from a movie, but at the time I wrote it with shaking fingers and then curled up on Mia's sofa, exhausted. The thing they don't tell you about leaving a cheating partner is that the heartbreak is only half of it. The other half is admin. You have to untangle your lives like 2 necklaces tied in knots. Unmerge Netflix accounts. Divide furniture. Tell mutual friends. Cancel deposits. Notify vendors. Our friend group split pretty cleanly. Half of them, especially the queer friends who'd seen us from the beginning, were firmly in my corner. The others went for the we don't want to take sides line, which in practice meant keeping Lena on their socials and quietly fading from mine. Lena posted a Notes app apology on Instagram a few weeks later, some vague thing about hurting someone I love deeply and taking time to work on myself. People commented, proud of you for owning it, and we all make mistakes. No one tagged me. For a while, I thought that was going to be my whole story. Girl gets cheated on, cancels wedding, learns to be okay alone. Which, frankly, is enough of a character arc. But life, apparently, had more plot twists planned. I threw myself into work. I'm a UX designer, and there is nothing like pouring your obsessive focus into making buttons slightly more intuitive when your personal life has imploded. I went to therapy. I started running again, slowly, badly, wheezing my way around the park while listening to Angry Girl playlists. 3 months after the breakup, my boss asked if I wanted to lead a new project. You be dealing directly with the client, he said. Big NGO, high visibility, lots of moving parts. It's a step up. Old me, the version engaged to Lena, who organized her life around someone else's schedule, would have said, let me talk to my fiancé first. New me said, yes, before he'd even finished the sentence. That project changed everything. Not dramatically overnight, but steadily. I worked with a cross-functional team, including this woman from the content side, Aria, who had this dry sense of humor and a habit of leaving post-it notes with tiny doodles on everyone's desks. She'd been through a divorce a few years before and knew the particular flavor of grief that comes from watching the future you planned burn to ash. We started as colleagues who share memes. Then colleagues who get a drink after long meetings. Then friends who text late at night about nothing and everything. I told her about Lena in fragments. She told me about her ex-husband, and the way people act like divorce is contagious. You know the wildest thing? She said once over ramen. Everyone told me I should forgive him. Not because he deserved it, but because they were uncomfortable with me being angry longer than a week. I stirred my noodles.
Yeah.
People like a redemption arc, especially if it means they don't have to examine their own choices. Slowly, without me noticing the exact moment, my life stopped revolving around what Lena had done and started revolving around what I was doing. I redecorated my new apartment exactly how I wanted. Plants everywhere, mismatched mugs, a ridiculous amount of fairy lights. I booked a solo weekend away, just because I felt like it. I stopped checking Lena's socials. 6 months after the breakup, Lena showed up at my favorite cafe. I was there with Arya, laptops open, both of us deep in a procrastination hole of watching dog videos instead of finishing our slides. I looked up and there she was, in her navy coat, hair pulled back, eyes already shiny. My stomach did that weird lurch it does when you see someone you loved and lost unexpectedly. Hey, I said, carefully neutral. Arya glanced between us, connecting dots, then mouthed, "Do you want me to go?" I shook my head. "Can we talk?" Lena asked. I gestured to the empty chair. "We're in the middle of something, but sure. What's up?" She sat, clutching her coffee like a lifeline. "You look good," she said, scanning my face like she was trying to find traces of the woman who'd walked out of our apartment months ago. "I am good," I said. It was true in a way that surprised me. She launched into it then. She and Dylan had fizzled out almost immediately, surprise, surprise. She'd started seeing a therapist. She'd realized she had commitment wounds from her parents' divorce, something I'd suggested years ago and been brushed off for. She missed me. She still loved me. She thought about me every day. "I know I don't deserve a second chance," she said, "but I had to tell you that I'm willing to do anything to prove myself to you." Once, that speech would have shattered me. I would have clung to it like a life raft. Now, sitting there with Arya next to me doodling quietly on the corner of my notebook, it just made me feel tired. "I'm glad you're doing the work," I said, and I meant it. "I really am. But I don't want you back." Her eyes filled with tears. "You can't even consider it?" I thought of the version of me who dimmed my own joy because Lena felt overwhelmed by wedding planning. The version who walked on eggshells around her mom. The version who ignored tiny red flags because I wanted so badly for our love story to be linear. "No," I said simply. "I'm happy now. Really happy. And it has nothing to do with punishing you. It's just, I'm finally building a life that fits me. I'm not going to squeeze myself back into the old one." She stared at me for a long time, then glanced at Arya. "Are you too?" I smiled. Arya's my colleague and friend. I caught Arya's small, amused shrug in my peripheral vision. "My happiness isn't about one person anymore, Lena. That was part of the problem. I made you my entire universe. That's too much pressure for any human, especially an unfaithful one." She winced. "I will never forgive myself," she whispered. "That's between you and your therapist," I said gently. "My job is to forgive myself for staying as long as I did." She left eventually, shoulders hunched, the bell on the cafe door jangling behind her. I watched her go and waited for the familiar collapse inside me. It never came. Just a sad sort of nostalgia, like listening to a song from a phase you've outgrown. A year after the couch incident, I got a promotion to head of UX. My team got bigger. The NGO project won an award. I stood on a stage in a sparkly jumpsuit, accepted a plaque, and looked out at the audience. In the front row, Mia was cheering. My little brother, who'd driven 3 hours to be there, was filming on his phone. Arya was in the aisle seat, clapping and whistling. And in the 6th row, slightly off to the side, was Lena. I hadn't invited her. She was there because she worked for one of the partner organizations and had to attend. For a second, our eyes met. Then the lights shifted, and the MC called my name again, and I realized that the true revenge, the real closure, wasn't her regret. It was me genuinely not needing it anymore. That's my story, I guess. I caught my fiancé cheating, burned the future we'd planned, and somehow ended up with a life that fits me better than anything I thought I deserved at the time. A life full of friends who show up, work that excites me, a home that's mine, and a version of myself that I actually like. And yeah, when they see it from across cafe tables from the 6th row of an award ceremony, they can't ignore it. But for the first time, their attention is just background noise. I'm the one holding the mic. That's where I'll end this for now. If we hit pause here, this whole thing reads like a case study in glow up by subtraction, and I am absolutely here for it. First, can we acknowledge the Olympic-level self-control it takes to walk in on your fiancé on the couch with Dylan from work and not start flinging dumplings like emotional grenades? Opie staying calm, asking how long, and then quietly taking her ring off is the kind of composed rage that haunts cheaters' dreams. Lena, meanwhile, is straight out of the I'm scared of commitment, so I'll commit the worst possible act playbook. The justifications, wedding stress, family pressure, fear of missing out, are all real feelings, but none of them magically alchemize into a valid excuse for letting a coworker unbutton your shirt on shared furniture. If you can say therapy exists while still fully clothed, you can also use it before nuking your relationship. What I really love here is how Opie doesn't make the story all about revenge or getting hotter, so Lena will regret it. The real revenge is boring, solid, sustainable happiness. Therapy, a job promotion, fairy lights, actual boundaries. The glow-up isn't look what you lost. It's look what I found when I stopped building my life around people who don't choose me fully. Also big shout-out to Aria, patron saint of post-trauma friendships. The scene in the cafe where X tries to reinsert herself into the plot and Opie basically says, "No babe, this season has been recast," is so quietly powerful. Anyway, buckle up, because you know cheaters and extended friend groups rarely stay politely in the rearview mirror. Time for the update. Hey again, it's been a little while, and some wild, small world stuff went down that I did not see coming. Shortly after that awards night, I thought things with Lena had finally settled into distant ex I occasionally spot in professional contexts. We'd nodded at each other in the lobby after the ceremony, a polite acknowledgement, and that was that. Then my cousin decided to get married. This is relevant because she and Lena are from overlapping social circles. My cousin Layla is bisexual, and when she came out, my parents had a full meltdown that somehow I ended up mediating. Now she was marrying her girlfriend, Noor, and they were determined to have the queer wedding the family needed but didn't deserve. Given my breakup, I assumed they wouldn't invite Lena. I was wrong. I don't want you to feel weird, Layla said on the phone, but she's on Noor's side of the list, and they were friends before you two ever dated. If you want me to uninvite her, I will, but I surprised myself. No, it's okay. Invite who you want. I can handle existing in the same room as my ex. Are you sure? I once survived a client presentation with a stomach bug, I said. I can survive a wedding with an ex. The wedding was beautiful. It was in this renovated warehouse-turned-event space, all exposed brick and hanging greenery and candles everywhere. My mother cried more at Layla's vows than she ever did at the idea of mine, but that's another therapy topic. I went with a group of friends, including Mia and Aria. By then, Aria and I had drifted into something gently more than friends without slapping a label on it yet. Long hugs, hand-holding at movies, sleepy phone calls. We were at the bar getting drinks when Mia leaned in and whispered, 2 o'clock. I turned. There was Lena in a navy jumpsuit, talking to some people from Noor's side, a drink in hand. She looked fine. Not catastrophic, not flourishing. Just human. When her gaze eventually drifted over and landed on me, there was that microsecond of shock, then a soft smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She walked over. I felt Aria's hand brush my elbow in a "you good?" check.
Hi, Lena said.
You look great. Thanks, I said. You too. Mia, sensing the need for less audience, grabbed Arya. We're going to go stare at the cake or something. They left us at the bar. How have you been? Lena asked. Good, I said honestly.
Busy.
You? She shrugged. Work's work. I moved apartments. Dylan left the organization, by the way. I blinked. I didn't ask. She flushed.
Right. Sorry.
Force of habit. Oversharing to fill awkward silences. We stood there for a moment, clinging to our glasses like life rafts. The band started playing something slow. Layla and Noor were swirling on the dance floor under fairy lights, looking like they'd stepped out of a movie. You were always meant for this, Lena said suddenly, nodding toward the dance floor. The big love, the big life. I think I knew that, and I panicked. I was meant for honesty, I said. Big or small, I don't care. Just truthful. She nodded. My therapist says I sabotage things before they can hurt me. So I hurt them first. Your therapist sounds competent, I said dryly. She also says calling you that day at the cafe was selfish, Lena added. That I was trying to unburden myself more than actually considering what you needed. She's 2 for 2, I said. We both laughed then, a little, the tension bending but not breaking completely. I'm glad you're doing well, she said. Seeing you on that stage at the awards, that was a punch to the gut, but in a good way. Like, of course she's up there, you idiot. I'm glad you're doing the work, I replied. Really? I don't want you miserable. I just don't want to be the collateral damage anymore. We clinked glasses to that, an odd little toast to mutual growth and separate lives. The real curveball came later in the night. During the dancing, Noor's older brother, who is a bit of a gossip, pulled me aside. You know Lena's been telling people you'll get back together one day, right? He said. I stared. What? Yeah. She was saying earlier that she thinks you two are endgame once she fixes herself. He rolled his eyes. Some people treat other humans like bookmark tabs. I felt this mix of anger and weird pity. On one hand, the audacity. On the other, how sad to cling to a fantasy version of a relationship when reality has clearly moved on. On the Uber ride home, wedged between Mia and Arya in the back seat, I told them what he'd said.
Mia snorted.
Of course she did. People hate accepting that sometimes they are just the villain in someone else's origin story. Arya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, How do you feel about it? Honestly? I said, watching streetlights smear across the window. I feel done. Not in a mean way.
Just done.
She's allowed to have her little headcanon. I have my actual life. A few months after that, Arya and I finally had the conversation. We were on my couch, the same place where my old life had ended, sharing a bowl of popcorn and watching some terrible dating show where people fell in love behind walls. You know we're basically dating, right? She said, not taking her eyes off the screen. Yeah, I said. I was waiting for someone brave enough to say it first. She laughed. Do you want to keep doing that? Dating, I mean. Officially. I looked at her, at this woman who'd seen me at my worst and didn't flinch, who left doodles on my notes and held my hand through panic spirals and never made my success feel like something to be resented. Yes, I said. Very much. We kissed, and for the first time since my engagement ended, it didn't feel like I was trying to paste a new person over an old wound. It felt like opening a new chapter in a book I hadn't realized still had pages. When I eventually posted a photo of us. Nothing dramatic, just us at the park with her hand on my shoulder and my head tipped back laughing, I braced myself for drama. Lena didn't like it, didn't comment. But she watched my stories more consistently after that, which I noticed only because her little icon kept popping up. My therapist suggested muting her. I did. Because my life is not a theater, and she doesn't need season tickets. The best part? My happiness has become boring to everyone except me and the people in it. And that is the highest compliment I can imagine. Not a spectacle, not a cautionary tale. Just a stable, joyful, sometimes messy, always honest life. If Lena or anyone else from that chapter catches glimpses of it and feels regret, that's their work. Mine is waking up next to someone who chooses me every day and choosing myself, even on the days when no one's watching. All right, time for the character roast/celebration portion of the evening. Opie. Absolute main character energy, but in the best, least insufferable way. She doesn't pretend she was flawless. She fully owns that she made Lena her entire universe and ignored warning signs because she wanted the fairy tale. But when the couch scene happens, she doesn't bargain her dignity away. She asks the key question, how long? Gets the truth, and then does the hardest thing. She leaves and stays gone. No half measures, no sneaky situationships, no secret, what-if rendezvous. Instead, she builds a slow, unsexy but solid foundation. Therapy, work, friendships, fairy lights, running while wheezing. That's the kind of boring consistency that actually changes lives. Lena, she is not a mustache-twirling villain. She's a walking bundle of unprocessed fear with access to other people's hearts and zero right to be unsupervised around couches. She cheats, lies by omission, and then tries to patch it with grand speeches about being scared. Classic, I hurt you because I was hurting energy. Her later work in therapy is good, and her eventual self-awareness, that the cafe talk was more for her conscience than Opie's healing, is a nice growth point. But growth doesn't entitle her to a sequel romance. She gets points for not full-on stalking, but loses several for keeping the "we're endgame" narrative alive in public. You don't get to bookmark people you broke. Dylan from work. Barely a character, more of a plot device in jeans. But he represents that bland, replaceable temptation people latch onto when they want to blow up their lives without confronting the real issue. Honestly, he exits the scene with less drama than the takeout bag.
Arya, MVP.
The emotionally literate, divorced content girl who quietly shows up, cracks jokes, brings ramen, and never once makes Opie's trauma about herself. She doesn't swoop in to save Opie. She walks beside her while Opie saves herself. Their progression from coworkers to late-night text friends to soft, labeled partnership is so much healthier than any rebound revenge fling could ever be. November 10th, would trust with my group chat secrets. Mia, the best friend archetype done right. She doesn't just say, he wasn't worth it in this case, she hands over her couch, her tissues, and the occasional necessary one-liner. Every traumatized protagonist deserves a Mia. Overall verdict. This story slaps specifically because the revenge isn't about ruining Lena's life. The revenge is Opie becoming so grounded and content that Lena's regret is just a faint background hum to her own happiness soundtrack. The cheater's punishment is not being screamed at forever. It's watching the person you underestimated build a life so good, your presence in it would be a downgrade.